So, Chevre, Baruch Hashem, Sunday, Alshech, Siyata Dishmaya, we have a brand new course that we're going to be going on, a journey that we're going to be going on together, and an amazing book that is Derech Hashem, the path of Hashem, the way of Hashem, which is an amazing kabbalistic philosophical book from the RaMHaL's. The RaMHaL's is Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. He was from Padova in Italy, Baruch Hashem, and he was a giant tzaddik. Many deep things were said about him, including the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon, who is, everybody knows, was a giant and a master and something that was a pele in this world, a complete wonder in this world. He said about the RaMHaL's that if they were alive in the same generation, he would walk to go meet him in Italy. He would walk for the schar to go meet him and to learn Torah from him. The RaMHaL's lived for 39 years, and they say that he was a tikkun for the first 40 years of Rabbi Akiva's life, that he was an Am Haaretz, and he didn't know Aleph Bet, and he didn't know Torah before he made Tshuva, right? And also it's known through his writings, you can see that he is in some way a continuation of the teachings of the Arizal, and coming to bring down things that the Arizal kind of didn't touch on enough or managed to get to so much. A lot of wisdom. He has books that are more philosophical. He has books that are more kabbalistic. He has books that are musar, right? That are ethics oriented. Derech Hashem, in a short way, is pretty much what do Jews believe 101. Right? That's why it's so essential. The most famous book of the RaMHaL's by far is Mesilat Yesharim, the Path of the Just, which is every single yeshiva in the world either has a shir on it or definitely has a bunch of copies of that book inside their yeshiva, because it's an essential way to understand the tools needed to go into Avodat Hashem. And Derech Hashem, this book that we're going to go into, is what do Jews believe? What is Hashem? What is the Jews' part? What is creation? What is this world? A lot of the different ideas that there's a lot of confusion about amongst the nations, and here he's going to clarify it. We have to obviously start with the introduction, because the introduction here of this book specifically, the RaMHaL's is breaking down. In every book he's talking to a different crowd, and he's talking to in a different setting, and he has over 40 books, if I'm not mistaken, and in all of them you'll see that he has overlapping ideas. Why? Because some books were made completely for that idea and talking to that crowd. Like obviously the kabbalistic books were talking to Mekubalim, right, and people that understood that. Then he has books that, like Derech Hashem, for a lot of us we're going to be like, we're in the middle ground, meaning through life experience you could understand a whole bunch of things. To go to the simple form of it takes effort, and to go to the more developed form of it takes effort. Like in life, we know arithmetic, we know a few things, but if you want to really go to the principles and the fundamentals of mathematics, that takes some learning to do. And if you want to go into quantum physics and geometry and all these different higher level calculus of mathematics, that also takes, right? But just from life experience, we can make our way through a textbook somewhat, right? So too, as being Jews in this world and being exposed to Torah and mitzvot and everything that we've heard in our life throughout Shiurei Torah and being Jews, so we're going to be tapping on a lot of things here that seem familiar to us. But what the RaMHaL's is trying to do here is to set our derech chashiva, the way that you actually think and process these ideas, and to be able to
compartmentalize.
That word, right? Compartmentalize these ideas, that when you come across something, you know the general compartment of that, of where that information belongs, and then you're able to piece it in there and place it and start to build up your structure of your Avodat Hashem and understanding your connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So B'ezrat Hashem, B'siyata Dishmaya, Neschut of the RaMHaL's and all the tzaddikim, may we be blessed to make it cover to cover and to really get the most out of this. It's 191 pages. B'ezrat Hashem. Yeah, we have nothing to do better than
We're
on
outside
Sunday.
time anyways.
Yeah, we're above time in Tzfat anyway. That's it. Exactly. So, it starts like this, להקדמה. יתרון ידיעת הדברים על מתכונת חלקיהם. The benefit of knowing things according to their parts. כפי מחלוקתם וסדרי יחסיהם, according to their divisions and the way of sorting out their relativity to one another. מידיעתם שלא בהבחנה. Knowing them without really להבחין, to differentiate and to make this difference. כי יתרון ראיית הגן הוא מהודק בערוגותיו ומיופו ובמסילותיו ובשורות מטעיו מיראת חורש הקנים והיער הצומח בערבוב. The difference here between knowing things and what part do they relate to and where do they go in the structure is like recognizing a beautifully ordered walled garden with landscaping than to walking into a complete mess of a jungle and a forest, right? That's the difference that we're dealing with here. And that's what we're trying to understand in Derech Hashem is this first point, right? When you understand what this book is going to teach you, your whole entire life is going to change around because you're going to start to see why the apples are in that corner of the garden and why are the orange flowers placed next to this succulent, right? Instead of just walking and seeing a whole entire hodgepodge of plants and overgrown trees. כי אומנם ציור חלקים רבים אשר לא נודע קישרם במדרגתם האמיתי בבניין הכל המורכב מהם, אצל השכל המשתוקק לדעת, אינו אלא מסע כבדה ולא חמדה. The forming of the pieces and the many fine details that are in the spirituality, and you don't know how to connect them and you don't know the levels, their true placement inside the structure, and what is made up of them, what is making them up, all these different things, right? When you're yearning to know more and to learn more, then all of a sudden it's like a burden on you, right? If you don't really know how everything's connected. You want to connect to Hashem, you want to have knowledge of Hashem, but everything's a mess for you. You try to make sense of everything, but right? Is this Gan Eden Tachton? Is this Olam Haba? What are we talking about here? כי הנה כל אחד מהם שיגיע ציורו אצלו, לא יניח מהעיר בו התשוקה לבוא עד תכליתו, וזה לא יעלה בידו. Right? All of us, we're going to be trying to understand these things, and we're trying to get to what is the purpose, what is being said here, and we're not going to get to it. כיוון שנעדר ממנו תשלום מעניינו. That's why? Because we're lacking the completion of this idea. שהרי חלק גדול מהדבר הוא יחסיו עם המתייחסים לו. A big part of everything that we're going to deal with in life is our relation, or the relation of other things, that how they relate to that thing. And where is it placed in reality? And this is lacking for majority of people. You're putting in all of this yearning and wanting and this desire to know, but you have no satiation, you have no fulfillment because you're not able to build the system. You don't understand where everything is meant to be placed. Your desire to learn spirituality is in the end what's going to cause you pain. And it's not going to give you any tranquility, it's not going to give you any rest, because you're just getting more and more confused. And the more you learn, the more details you find out, the more of a mess you have. That's not the case for a person who knows things properly, knows the structure of things. Derech Hashem, who knows the way of Hashem in the world. שביעות נושאו מתגלה לעיניו בעלילה על כמות שהוא, הלוך ילך והשכל אל אשר יפנה שם, וביופי במלכותיו יתענג וישתעשע. The more you learn, when you understand the structure of things, the more you learn, the more beautiful everything gets, the more amazing it gets, the more it's being revealed to your eyes that there's amazing structure, and Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, you start to come together, this whole entire package, that's not a messy jungle. No, it's a beautifully organized garden. והנה כלל מה שיצטרך לאדם שיבחין בנושאו, הוא מדרגתו האמיתית שזכרנו. The main thing you have to understand is the truth. Where is this thing, this idea really placed in the structure? Where am I placed? Who is God? What is an angel? What is Hod? What is Chesed? What is all these different ideas that we talk about? What is Gan Eden Tachton? What is Olam Haba? Right? We have to really understand these things and where are they meant to be put. כשנבחין כלל הנמצאות או מוחשים או מושכלים שהם כלל מה שיצטער ציורו בשכלנו נמצא שאין כולם מין אחד ומדרגה אחד. When you start to understand there's different species, there's different beings, there's different things, there's different realities, right? Then all of a sudden you understand that it's not just one big mess, right? It's not just a garden. No, there's portions, there's sections, there's right? אלא מינים שונים ומדרגות מתחלפות. There's different types, there's different species, and there's levels that are interchangeable and they switch and they're dynamic. וכפי יתחלף מינם, כן יתחלפו משפטיהם וחוקיהם. Once the species or the type changes, so too the laws in relation to that thing change, and how to behave with it and how to act with it. Everything changes. וזה ממה שיכריחנו להבחין ביניהם בהשכלתנו למען נשיג אותם לאמיתתם. This is why we have to really understand where everything is placed so that we can actually relate to them properly when we're going through life. כל אחד כפי חוקו, everything and the way that it's meant to be interacted with in law. ואומנם ראשי המדרגות והמינים שמונה. The beginning and understanding what are the types, what are the head archetypes, right? There's 8 of them. והם מה שראוי שיבחן בנושא. This is what it takes for you to look at an idea or topic in the world and to be able to determine where it belongs. And they are hakol v'achelek, everything and the part, right? Haklal v'aprat, the general aspect and the finer detail. Hasiba v'mesovav, right? The cause and the effect. Hanoseh v'mitchaber, the object and what it and what its use, what it connects it. This is the first thing that we have to talk about in order to understand. Are we talking about the whole thing? Are we talking about a part? Are we talking about the general aspect? Are we talking about a finer detail? Are we talking about the cause? Are we talking about an effect? Are we talking about an object? Are we talking about a thing that connects it? כן יובחן בו הבחנות אשר כפי טבעו מצטרכות להשלמת השכלתו וציור עניינו. According to where it is placed, where does it fit on the structure, so too now we'll be able to differentiate and know according to its nature, its place that it's rooted in, what do I need in order to complete the image that I'm forming in my head? What do I need in order to really understand this thing to its depth? If it's a part, then I need to know what is the whole. What is it a part of? If it's one fine rule, one clause, then what is the general law? What is the general rule here that I'm dealing with? If it's a cause, then what is its effect? And if it's an effect, then what was its cause? If it's something that connects, then what is the object that is connected to? Right? What kind of object that it connects to? What is it part of that the bigger structure? Is it before? Is it a continuation? Or is it some kind of side effect? Does it exist by itself, or is this like a coincidence that it happened? Right? Is this like something that happens because of something else? Is it in potential or is it in actuality? These are all things that you can't complete the idea that you have in your head without understanding the whole entire picture. On everything you have to contemplate the nature and the impression and the root of the thing. Is it a definitive? Right? Is this the thing, or is it limited? Is it at its full potential, or is it limited still? If it's limited, if there's a limitation to the thing I'm dealing with, what are its limitations? If you start to deal with a limited thing in an unlimited way, right, and now already you're making a mess. Now you don't know, you're dealing with something that you're treating it in the improper way, right? Water can't just be sprayed everywhere. Water is meant to go inside a vessel. That's the nature of water, that it doesn't have form. It takes form, right, of the thing that you put it in. So you have to understand these things. You can't just be treating everything like a big hodgepodge. Do we have permission to finish the chapter? Yeah, you're good on time? טוב. ואומנם צריך שיתבונן, הנה מספר הפרטים עצום מאוד מאכיל אותם שכל האדם. You have to understand that the amount of details that we're dealing with here are so many details that your intellect can't even tolerate it. You can't even hold all of these ideas and this information in your head. ואי אפשר לו לדעת כלום. You're not able to know anything. ואולם מה שראוי לו שישתדל עליו הוא ידיעת כללים. What you should know and what you should try to make an effort of is the general aspects. כי כל כלל בטבעו כולל פרטים הרבה. Every general aspect in its nature includes many fine details. כשישיג כלל אחד נמצא משיג מאליו מספר רב מן הפרטים. When you really understand one general rule, then you get a lot of the finer details. What do you have an example of this? There's 39 things you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. How many things are you really not allowed to do on Shabbat? Over 55,000. But if you really understand those 39 things, then when you even come across one of those 55,000, you'll be like, oh, that belongs there and that's something that's questionable. At least you would be hesitant to do it on Shabbat, right? Until you find out the halakha, until you really check. And if you did it, but you know it's maybe a problem, then you can go and do tshuva, right? But you don't have to know everything you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. You just have to know the 39 things that you're not allowed to do on Shabbat. That include in them tons of details. ואף על פי שלא יבחין בם עדיין לא יכירו אותם פרטי הכלל ההוא, כי הנה כשיבוא כל אחד מהם לידו, לא יניח להכיר אותו. Since you don't know all the finer details, and you're going to say, okay, what, I don't need to figure it out. No. When one of these finer details comes across you in life, you're going to be, okay, let me do a little bit of research. Where is this thing rooted? Again, what is he coming to do in this introduction? It's not an introduction to just a book. This is an introduction to life. This is a lesson in life. Start to structure your thinking into a format of general, finer detail. General, finer detail. This person, he is a Breslover, right? And because he's that, so then there's maybe a reason that he's going to act like this, or he's going to say certain things like that, right? Now, all of a sudden, my relationship with him is more understandable, right? Again, that's just one detail. Right? In Chanukah, Hashem is acting through the midah of Hod. What does that mean to me? I can learn a lot about that just by knowing a little bit of what the Hod is. Now, every finer detail, like Rabbi Nachman says, when you're going through Sfirat HaOmer, if you really pay attention to everything that's being said to you, everything you hear during that day of Sfirat HaOmer, you're going to hear exactly everything is related to the Sfira. Right? If you know the Sfira, Tiferet Shebahod, Chesed Shebegvura, everything you hear that day is going to be connected to Chesed Shebegvura. Right? Now, do you have to know all the fine details of everybody's life? No. But if you know Chesed Shebegvura, you're going to understand how everything that was said to you, or everything you heard, was related. Right? Since you already know the general rule, when a finer detail comes across to you, you're going to try to figure out, where does this go? In which compartment do I put? It can't be that I have a finer detail without a klal, without a general principle. So too the rabbi said, always make sure that the words of Torah are in your hands, are in general aspects and not in finer details. Meaning, you obviously you have to have finer details, but always make sure that when you learn Torah, you have compartments, you have these sections in your head, right? And you know every Dvar Torah has a place that it's rooted in. אך מה שיצטרך בידיעת הכללים הוא הדעת אותם בכל גבוליהם ובחינותיהם. ואפילו דברים שנראים בתחילה ועדרי התולדה צריך שתשמע אותם ותשית להם ליבך. What you need to know is the general rules. And when we say you need to know the general rules, it means to know them completely. Right? Know everything about that general rule. Why? Because even if something in the beginning, like you say, this general rule, it's a general rule, but it doesn't have any offspring. There's no continuation of it. There's not too many finer details. Even if the finer details haven't been revealed to you, guard inside yourself the general rule. It is very important that you understand the general rule until the end, and you pay attention to it. And don't put it down. Don't disgrace it. Like the rabbi said, there's nothing big or small in the general, in the klal, that doesn't have a place for offspring of finer details, meaning in a continuation on a smaller, finer level. מה שלא יוסיף ולא יגרע בקצת הפרטים. הנה יוליד תולדה רבה בזולתם ובהיות הכלל לכולם, צריך שיהיה בו מה שיספיק לכולם. If it's a cloud for many things, then it has to have enough room for all the many things. And if it's this big idea that can include into many things, it may be that you hasn't been revealed to you the finer details. But if it's a general principle, that means it has room for finer details. Therefore, you have to be very, very, very precise with this. Pay attention and contemplate on these ideas, their relations, their connections with immense precision. Be very, very careful of seeing how could this thing potentially continue and what could develop from it. How does one idea come from another idea? From the head until the end. Then you'll be successful and then you'll become more intellectual, more spiritual. According to these things that we've mentioned right now, I have connected and I've put together for you my pleasant reader. It's not my words, this is the RaMHaL. Chibur katan zeh, this small book. V'kivanti bo lehatzia lefanecha klalei ha'emunah v'avodah al buriyam. My intention in making this book, says the RaMHaL, was to present in front of you the general, again, the klal, that's the most important thing that he wants us to understand. Klalei ha'emunah v'avodah. The general principles of emunah, of what is called Jewish faith and knowledge, v'avodah, and our service of Hashem, al buriyam, clearly. They're clearly placed for you in Derech Hashem. באופן שתוכל לעמוד עליהם על נכון, in a way that you'll be able to stand on top of them, properly established. והצטיירו בשכלך ציור מספיק. You will have in your intellect some kind of an image that is enough for you. מוצל מן הערבוב והמבוכה. That you're being saved from all of the confusion and all of the complexity and the perplexity that could be in life. Again, the Rambam is a huge influence on the RaMHaL. Like most Mekubalim, this Rambam that everybody says wasn't a Kabbalist, but no Kabbalist exists without the Rambam, right? And if you really have a Kabbalistic eye or a Hasidic eye and you read the Rambam, you see what a tzaddik of immense proportions he was and how much he understood in Hasidut and Sod, to the point where it's clear that even if he didn't have the Zohar or he didn't have that, he was 100% learning the Kabbalah, peh mi peh, right, mouth to mouth. He for sure had a rabbi that was giving him over this information, if not Eliyahu Navi or some kind of angel that was revealing it to him. And the RaMHaL brings the Rambam tons and tons of time through all of his books. Here he says it word, right? Yirbu v'amevucha, from the confusion and the perplexity, the guide of the perplexed. So the Rambam is used a lot in the RaMHaL's writings. You will see their roots and the branches and their levels as clear as possible by going through Derech Hashem. Right? They will settle in your heart and you will acquire them in your intellect in the most choicest of ways. From here on out, from after learning Derech Hashem, it will be much more easy for you to find Dat Elokim, God consciousness, in all the parts of the Torah and all of the commentaries. To stand strong on all of the contradictions that you might find inside the Torah. As the blessing of Hashem, your God, that He shall give you. 2 paragraphs and we're done, sorry, Rabbi Yechezkel. I tried my best, says the RaMHaL, to sort out these things in topics and in order that does the best benefit. And with the proper words, the words that I thought were the most fitting. To give you the most perfect image and form of these things that I'm talking about and that I'm causing you to become learned in. Therefore, you need to be very precise on everything. To guard everything with immense protection until you find a way that this thing will benefit you. Meaning, we're going to be learning things in this book that are 100% going to help you in life. It might be that it takes you even a decade. It might be 2 months. It might be 2 weeks. But you're going to be learning things in here that are 100% going to be applicable in your life. Don't give up that thing I learned in Derech Hashem is not helping me. There's going to become a time where it's going to fit in. Do not give up on any precision that he had in his words. If you don't be very precise with his words, and really get down to what he's saying and why he chose that word and not that word, why this order and not that order, you might lose some detail. You might lose something that's essential. This is what you should do. Be very precise on all of the words that I'm using. Be very careful and put an effort to be precise and to be very particular with what is the content that is being given over here, and to guard all of this truth in your intellect. And you found for yourself a resting place that will do good for you. Last paragraph. Derech Hashem. I have called this book Derech Hashem, the path of Hashem. This is again the general way that Hashem acts in this world. That he revealed to us by way of his prophets, and he made it known to us in his Torah. And by way of this, he rules over us and his whole entire creation. And this book is separated into 4 parts, 4 main parts. The first chapter, the first part, we're going to be talking about the general, fundamental reality and its finer details. The second part about Ashgachato Itbarach Shemo, about the providence, the fact that Hashem is engaged in this world and he's watching over everything. Chelek Shlishi, in the third part, we're going to talk about Nevu'ah, about prophecy. Chelek Revi'i Ba'avodah. And the fourth chapter, we're going to talk about Avodah, about the work that we have to put in. Va'ata, Achi, now my brother, Kol Mevakesh Hashem, everyone who's requesting and seeking out Hashem. Maderech hazeh lech, on this path you should go. V'Hashem yeh imcha v'natan lecha einayim lirot v'oznayim lishmoa niflaot mitorato. And Hashem is with you. He will give you eyes to see and ears to hear the wonders from His Torah. Amen. Ken yehi ratzon. That is the intro to Derech Hashem. Very excited to get into it. B'zchut Rabbeinu Moshe Chaim Nutzato. May we only have much blessing in all of our ways, and may our ways be the ways of Hashem. B'ezrat Hashem. Amen. Ken yehi ratzon.
Amen. Chazak u'baruch.